Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This week's video is part of the Every Bit Counts challenge. So you'll get to see a little bit of the work my family and I did in preparation for the lovely winter months to come. Hi, I'm Sonia. I'm a homeschooling, homesteading, spirit-filled, Torah-keeping mother of 10, and you are watching IHN Homestead. Colossians 3:17 states, "And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God and the Father by him." We started out this week doing some much needed maintenance on the garden. We got that compost brought in and dumped the week prior to. And so the family came and we just got to work. We started pulling weeds as much as we could. This ground was kind of hard. And then we also got this small little rototiller that we could use to get down the rows in between the tomatoes and the peppers and the cabbages. Get up nice and close to the plants, get them irrigated. I guess you can say getting that soil turned, getting air down in there. And then the boys worked together. They're wheelbarrowing the mulch out, well actually the compost I should say out, and they were just filling in all around the plants. And then as we filled in from the plants, then from there we started filling in some of the rows. There's little Adam helping his dad, keeping my cabbages back so he didn't chop them up. Don't worry, he wasn't anywhere close to his fingers, I promise. He did a really good job. But everybody worked really well together. We got this done in no time, and the kids were having fun because as they were working, they were picking the produce and snacking on it throughout the day. But hey, yeah, it was some much needed maintenance. I was getting some tomato plants tied up. We had a lot of vines, a lot of growth since the last time I tied them, and I did not want my tomatoes breaking. And so I do my best to keep them tied up as much as possible, keep the tomatoes off the ground, keep airflow through my plants. I have found that I get a lot better tomatoes when I do it that way. And so that's what I was doing. But yep, so we're out here getting the garden ready and getting it prepped. This compost is really good. It adds a lot of nutrients to the soil. It keeps the moisture in and everything, keeps the weeds down. So it's a great help because I don't know anybody really that enjoys pulling weeds. I know I don't, but now Mary took over the camera and she's going around looking at all the produce. So we got some really nice Roma tomatoes coming in. My pepper plants are not that big, but we are still getting some harvest from the pepper plants. I was very happy because my cauliflower is actually doing very well this year. We've been getting a lot of zucchini, and I'm so happy that I only planted a couple of them because we've had so much zucchini. There's some summer squash, and then we also have some of the spaghetti squashes growing, and they're looking beautiful, nice and big. And then she moved her way over, and I think she found a trombone squash. I have not grown trombone squashes, but from what I researched, I found that they can store pretty well in your cellar. Mary gave that one a thumbs up, apparently. We also, there's an apple tree on the property, and it is loaded with apples, so the kids are really excited about that. Oh my goodness, cucumbers. I planted 4 plants of the pickling cucumbers and 4 plants of the larger cucumbers. I had cucumbers coming out of my ear. Oh, she likes the watermelon too. She gave a thumbs up for the watermelon as well. And there's always something pretty to look at while we're out at the garden. These sunflowers are absolutely gorgeous, and my daughter Mary really loves the sunflowers. But as you can see, the rows are getting filled up really well. Everybody's working really hard. And after this, we'll head home and we'll start preserving. We had another project back at the house that called for some more compost. So my daughter Mary jumped in the truck with her daddy, and she took my phone and camera with her, and she started videoing. She wanted to get some more footage of the city trucks and the compost. She thought it was pretty neat. So yep, we're just back here getting some more compost, and I'll show you the project that we're working on. Now I know you guys have watched me make sauerkraut before, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. But again, all you do is slice up some cabbage nice and thin, add some salt. I do Redmond real salt. Sorry, my kids were being butts. But anyways, I add some Redmond real salt. I just start smashing it around, getting it ready, trying to release some of the water. Once I feel like it's good, I'll start adding it to the jar. Then I'll mash it down in the jar again until I get a nice water coming out of the cabbage that the cabbage can ferment in. But this was the first part of the Every Bit Counts challenge. This is the first thing that I was storing this week, and I got 2 more half-gallon jars of sauerkraut ready for the winter. Next, we are moving on to some Swiss chard. We have quite a bit of Swiss chard at the garden in town, and we even have some growing here at the house. I did not eat it as much as what I thought I would this year. I ate a lot of it last year. For some reason, just wasn't on my list for this year. So we decided that we were going to try and dehydrate the Swiss chard and chop it up in a blender and put it in a jar for down in the cellar. And I thought with that, kind of wondering, well, what would you do with it? Well, I figured I'd just add it to soups or something so we could have some greens and that nutrition that you get from the greens in the soups for this year. So this is something that Mary was working on. She was chopping off all the bad ends, getting that ready, and everything was already been cleaned and washed and ready to go. And then we decided that we didn't quite have enough, so Mary took the camera outside. She got it all set up by herself. I think she did a great job. And she is getting some Swiss chard out of the front yard. And she, if you notice, she was pointing earlier. She said she saw a couple of hawks coming over our yard. And we've got chickens and ducks, and those hawks really like chicken. So what my kids will do is they'll run outside and try and scare the hawks away from the chickens. But yeah, so she just came out here, grabbed a few more leaves of the Swiss chard, and then she's going to take it inside and get it all cleaned up. And then we will start getting them on our dehydrator trays. And I think you do it, it was about 100 and, if I remember correctly, it was 135-ish degrees in the dehydrator for 6 to 8 hours. And they came out nice and crispy. And so I don't have the footage of it, but we ended up putting it in the blender. And from there we put it in a glass mason jar, and we put a oxygen absorber in it as well, put a lid on it, and we put it down in the basement. So here's Mary doing her thing. We had a little bit of Swiss chard left, so what I did was I added it to our lunch. I was doing chicken and cabbage and onions, and I thought the Swiss chard greens would taste really good, so I chopped up the rest of that Swiss chard that we had left over that we couldn't fit in the dehydrator, and a little bit of kale, and I added that to our lunch that afternoon. I like having these really quick lunches that we can sit down and eat, have a nice meal in order to get back up and get back to work. The nice thing is, though, after lunches, my little girls go down for a nap, and it gives me a little bit more time to work on the things that I need to work on around the house with the girls being asleep. Something else that we did this week that wasn't part of the Every Bit Counts challenge, but some of the work that we did was our front herb garden was dry. The weeds needed pulled. It was a mess. As you can see, the ground here is really hard. And so me trying to pull these weeds out was a bit of a fluke, if you would like to say. So we got as much of the weeds pulled as we could. And then we started hauling that extra compost that Mary and her father went back to pick up that she did that video footage of. And we started composting around all of our herbs so we could, again, try to lock in that moisture, definitely, that they need. Add some nutrients and stuff to the soil, so good microbiome into our soil. We're really hoping that as we feed our soil that we get just a lot better, fluffier, just a lot better, more nutritious soil at our yard here. And the kids did a great job. By the time we got done with this, it just looked absolutely beautiful. You can see my mint here. My mint is growing legs and it's trellising out. They weren't joking when they said that that stuff spreads, were they? The next thing we decided to preserve this week for the Every Bit Counts challenge, I believe this is the third thing that we did this week, was some sweet cucumber relish. And it has the cucumbers, onions, peppers, and we just used whatever peppers we had. We had some green peppers and banana peppers from the garden, so that's what we used. And if I remember correctly, this recipe took about 15 cups of cucumbers. It was a pretty large recipe, and Mary decided that she was going to give this a shot and see what she couldn't come up with. I think I was actually running some errands at this time, and so she had everything up and going and decided to see what she couldn't pull off. And so and then when I got home, I was able to get it finished and immersion blended and in the jars, and you'll see that here in just a second. All right, we got those done and in the canners and ready to go. We ended up having to use this other small pan to get my last couple jars in. So all I did is put a little grate at the bottom and put those jars in there. But that was it for this week's video. I hope you all enjoyed the time you got to spend with my family. Remember, Colossians 3:17 states, "And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God and the Father by him." God bless you.